An elaborate sting operation from Greenpeace produced an undercover tape where a veteran oil industry lobbyist explained in detail the efforts to undermine climate science. That recording is now the impetus behind an inquiry into the oil industry's alleged widespread climate disinformation campaign. The New York Times reporting executives of some of the world's most powerful oil and gas companies, including ExxonMobil, Chevron, BP, and Shell, they've been called to testify before Congress next month. The House Oversight Committee saying it intends to investigate what appears to be a, quote, coordinated effort to spread disinformation, to mislead the public, and to prevent crucial action to address climate change. With me now to discuss, Representative Khanna, California Democrat and chair of the House Subcommittee on the Environment. Congressman, thanks for joining us on this. What do you want to hear from these companies?
We want to get three basic answers. First, what has been the history of climate disinformation? They need to admit that. What is the ongoing climate disinformation they're engaged in? Are they funding shadow groups? Are they funding lobbyists to kill legislation? And finally, we need on the record, under oath, for them to commit to stopping any of this climate disinformation, given the representations they made to their own board of directors and the American public.
Do you expect to get that from a company like ExxonMobil?
Well, they're going to be under oath, and they've told their own board of directors, which have activist board of directors, that they are for a sustainable energy future. They've said that they aren't killing any climate legislation. So let's see if they're going to make that representation under oath, and then they need to explain why is it that they have lobbyists that are killing climate legislation? Why is it that they have been funding nonprofits for think tank studies that have been minimizing climate disinformation? So we need to get to the bottom of it. And like the big tobacco hearings had a forcing function to bring transparency, the big oil hearings will do the same thing.
I want to talk about a couple of troubling numbers when it comes to especially minority communities and climate change. Black Americans are 40 times more likely to live where mortality rates are projected to be highest due to heat. Black Americans are 34% more likely to live where childhood asthma is diagnosed due to air pollution. Hispanic Americans are 43% more likely to live where labor loss is projected to be highest due to extreme weather. We have seen this across the board over the last year or so with these extreme weather conditions, from flooding, from heat waves. We could go on and on. What does Congress need to do to address this huge and major disparity?
Yes, and thank you for bringing up the racism issue when it comes to issues of the climate crisis. I saw it in my own district. We have an airport in San Jose. They've been flying with leaded fuel, and that leaded fuel has led to an increase in the blood level of many of the children around the airport. And they are disproportionately children of color, particularly in the Hispanic community. So we need to understand that the climate crisis has a disproportionate impact on Black and Latino communities, and particularly on children. Congress will be investigating that separately in a separate hearing, but we also are going to ask these executives their understanding of the impacts on communities of color and whether they are aware of it and are going to commit to taking action to resolve it.
Guys, control room, talking to you now. Do we have the sound of the veteran oil lobbyist, Keith McCoy? Let's play that.
On something like climate change, there's some forest fires, there's an increase of, 0.001, Celsius. That doesn't affect people's everyday lives.
Congressman, that's what you're going to be dealing with in these hearings.
Well, yes, we're in touch with McCoy, and Exxon has produced a number of documents concerning exactly that incident. Some of those documents are very concerning, very troubling. But we are in touch with McCoy to get the facts on that. And of course, Darren Woods, when he appears before the committee, is going to have to answer for that. I mean, he is telling his board of directors that they are for climate legislation, that they are for a carbon tax, that they support the types of initiatives on a clean energy standard. And then you hear McCoy basically bragging about killing that legislation. He can't have it both ways, and he needs to come clean to the American public. My only piece of advice to these oil executives is come tell the truth, because if you lie like the tobacco executives did, you're going to be in a much bigger world of hurt.
Good luck to you in this testimony ahead. Good luck to us as well, because we're all going to need it right
Thank you.
as we're looking at the effects of climate change across the world.